Hey everyone, and welcome to Roast the Post, the story behind the bullets. I'm Jennifer Houle, and every week, Paul and I pull apart a real job posting to figure out what it actually says about the company behind it. Because let's be honest, job postings are rarely just job postings. They're tiny windows into culture, decision making, and sometimes a warning flag for complete chaos. If you're a job seeker, we'll help you read between the lines so you can spot the red flags, the green flags, and the run, don't walk flags. And if you're a job seeker, HR folks, hiring managers, anyone crafting these things will decode why certain posting structures signal clarity or why others spray confusion everywhere. Each episode, one of us brings a job post the other hasn't seen. We break it down section by section, and at the end, we both give it a score and leave you with some insights from our nearly 50 years of combined experience in the world of workplaces. All right, let's roast.
So we are before we start the show. I think we should recognize that folks who watched the first 4 or 5 episodes and gave us feedback. Thank you very much. We're trying out something a little bit new today. Hope you all like it. And for the person who very bravely wrote in that they could see up my nose, thank you. And today's brand new camera angle is for you.
Absolutely. We're not doing no nostril, but we're going nostril light moving forward. So I think everyone will appreciate that.
Yep, there's a protocol for nostril viewing.
Absolutely. There is such thing as too much nostril, I think. So this week I am bringing you the job posting, and I just want to know one thing. Are you ready to roast the post?
You can't even imagine how ready I am to roast this post. Let's just turn on the torches.
Let's do it. And a reminder for those listening at home, we will have the full job posting linked in the show notes. So let's get started. Let's go into the roasty profile, if you will. The job title is Chief of Staff Client Operations. The report to title is not listed. The company side is 11 to 50 employees, and the industry is operations consulting. This company is, startup operations platform and service that handles back office functions like HR, finance, compliance, payroll, and equity, so founders can outsource administrative work and focus on growing their business. Their head office location is Beaverton, Oregon, United States. I had to do some digging to find that.
Hang on. So Beaverton is not just a Canadian satire website that screws with the Times Magazine's fact checkers. It's actually a place too.
It's a place in Oregon.
I love it.
And the job location is fully remote. They have postings kind of all over the place, actually. This one specifically is in Canada, and it's a full-time job. So I'm going to start reading the job posting as per. Let's see. Chief of Staff Client Operations. About the job, also known as Operations Program Manager or Client Operations Manager. You'll run back office ops, HR, finance, compliance for multiple startups, owning delivery, triaging edge cases, and building scalable processes. This is a role for those who love working and strategizing with high-growth founders and CEOs. I'm going to go into the About Us, and then we can break and discuss it. About Us. This company exists to make every startup and SMB in the world successful. We believe that the more successful startups, the better a world will all experience. Operations are foundational, yet most companies chronically underinvest in them to their detriment. We build and maintain their back office operations so that they can focus on their differentiating superpowers. We work behind the scenes to help our clients win. We like efficiency. We geek out on checklists. We are transparent with each other and our clients. We are professional, inclusive, and autonomous, and our goal is to provide a culture that fosters long-term success, is reputation and trust-based, fun, and pushes each of us to always learn. We are looking for proactive, detail-oriented individuals interested in joining as a chief blank officer. That's the name of the company that I've blanked. What we call our operation program managers or fractional chief of staff. lead multi-work stream back office programs, so HR, finance, compliance, for startups, unblock teams and leaders, and deliver outcomes across a client portfolio. You are the main conduit through which all our clients' back office operations run. You are their project manager and leader. You are the person they trust to keep things running so they can focus on their product and sales. You strategize and own their back office operation. The Chief Blank Officer serves as a fractional chief of staff, chief operating officer, working with multiple startup founders, CEOs to project manage key corporate matters. These responsibilities are often tactical, but as you build trusted relationships with the CEOs of these world-changing startups, you will also become their strategic partner. Successful project manager operations leads get it done, figure it out, proactively get ahead of problems, and communicate every step. And we're going to pause there.
That's cool. This is really interesting. Like they said kind of at the beginning that they believe that the world will be a much better place with a whole bunch of successful startups and small businesses and whatnot. That really vibes with me. It lines up with my kind of personal values and why I do what I do. I believe the world's going to be a much better place if we have a whole whackload of small businesses that are successful, because you have, more broadly distributed labor markets, you've got decentralization of power, economic power, and those are good things for a society. So like that part, I dig a lot. It's also interesting from a business model perspective. It's kind of interesting that they've essentially created a back office agency. So they're acting as the back office for, kind of a handful of clients or whatever, and they're just kind of getting stuff done. Like they're acting as like that team that's unsung heroes, as they say, in a lot of ways. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting job posting. I've always kind of had an interest in chief of staff roles in general. I just find them fascinating. I think that they're a very valuable role to an organization. But to me, it's interesting that that's the title, because that's not what I think the role is. They use a few different titles here and there. But I guess for ease of explanation, that's the title they've gone with. I thought it was interesting as well. It sounds pretty exciting. My background is in venture capital, and so what we do is provide this kind of support from a funder's perspective. So we have a platform services team. For example, I'm employed at the venture capital firm, but I also provide HR guidance to our portfolio companies who don't have HR in place. We also provide vetted, really well researched fractional support and in-house support. So we'll say our CFO, for example, can help with some of our startups with their financial needs and providing guidance. So it's kind of like this all-in-one formula they're doing as its own whole enterprise, its own organization, whereas it's something that we offer as a VC firm and a lot of other firms as well, as like an in-house platform support service. So it's an interesting model. My question for you is, did you identify anything that stood out to you as like green flag, red flag, beige flags? Anything?
Yeah, green flags. So for me, the green flags are they're kind of explaining quite clearly what it is they do, and in kind of the startup world, that is not always the case. Like some things get a little bit murky in the startup world, so you're not always kind of fully like cognizant of what you're signing up for. But this seems to be very clear. It's like, all right, you're going to work for essentially an agency. That agency is going to provide services to a staple or a portfolio of clients, and all of those clients are startups. And the way that this kind of reads to me so far is we are going to tame the chaos for our clients, because working back office operations and kind of like the plumbing, if you will, in early stage companies is extremely chaotic. It's very chaotic. They don't seem to be shying away from that, which is great. It's absolutely fantastic. I think that they're probably, by taking this approach, they're probably going to attract people who are like, yeah, yeah, show me the chaos monkey. I got this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like green flag for me is just kind of their blatant excitement for the work that they're doing, like talking about geeking out on certain things. I like their honesty. We're going to get into a little bit more some examples of the work that you would be doing in this role, qualifications, and it gets pretty intense. And I appreciate that they're so transparent about it. Like they're in no way saying, "Oh, this is a chill job." They're like, "You're gonna work."
Mm.
But if you love it, then this is the role for you. So yeah, any red flags, anything that makes you feel cautious so far, or are we good?
Nothing yet. Nothing yet. My spidey sense is tingling a little bit, but I think perhaps we're just a little bit early in the job posting for me to pounce and go into attack mode and whatnot. So let's carry on. I'm really curious to see the next section.
Let's do it. So the next section is going to be covering some examples of the work and qualifications, skills, and then we'll stop there. So some examples of the work we do. The operations team is sometimes the dumping ground for things that don't go anywhere else. While others are bothered by that, we revel in it. We get it done when no one else can. Use judgment and thoughtfulness. Can you work with our accountant to get taxes filed, or can you get this NDA out to a customer and coordinate if there are any issues? Research and problem solving for back office edge cases. Be smart enough and skilled enough to jump from a finance question to an HR question to a vendor question. We handle the complex unknowns. Strategic work, example, how should I think about compensation and benchmarks for my company? We've seen this organically happen at times when OPs have built a trusted relationship with clients. Qualifications, skills. 5+ years of startup experience, business experience that includes interfacing with clients or external parties is required. 2+ years experience in at least 2 of the following: project management, product management, customer success, client operations, HR, finance, legal, or compliance. So they're saying 2 years experience in at least 2. I just wanted to reiterate that. Proactive, detail-oriented, and excellent ability to context switch. Great communication skills. This includes not only an ability to talk on a call, but much more so write down every step and communicate the value of that step effectively. Ability to say no in a way that doesn't feel like a no to the other party. You love building deep, trusting relationships with dynamic founders across many industries. Are a total geek for better processes, more standardization, and reinventing things just enough to make them more efficient. You enjoy improving every day. You know what Kaizen means, and the fact that we care about it excites you. Checking items off of your work list while also considering how can I do this process more efficiently brings a smile to your face. There's always more to do for clients, and you thrive on getting things done while simultaneously knowing that you are helping to move these amazing startups forward. People who have a deep dedication to client service and doing right by our stakeholders. Seeing delight on a client's face brings delight to your day. Ability to focus in stressful situations and almost automatically prioritize. Openness to giving and receiving feedback. You don't mind doing the unsexy part of running a startup, i.e., dealing with regulators, including waiting on hold forever for them to pick up, managing employee offboarding, and basically doing the startup plumber work. If you believe you deserve to only work on sexy things, then this isn't the role for you. We live in the unsexy but critical. You want to join a passionate, fun, and kind team for the long term, 2+ years. While this role might be a stepping stone and we celebrate our team members' growth, if you apply, our assumption is that you prefer a job where you can see yourself for several years. And I'm going to stop there. So that was a lot of information, a lot of hard to read sentences for me, just like sentence structure, which always gets me, is a little bit challenging. But curious to hear your thoughts. Red flags, green flags, beige flags. What do we got here?
There, yeah, it didn't disappoint. There's even more there. And maybe this is kind of a good place to call out that how you write a job ad structurally, like your word choice, the length of the sentences, punctuation, breaks, all of that. It can have an impact on the audience. Like Jen said, these were really, really long sentences, and reading them out loud was kind of like, like, did I give myself a tongue cramp or something? Like, it works the same way with your brain, right? So if you're writing a paragraph, or 3, 4 sentences to kind of communicate and explain each point in your job ad, you're maybe doing yourself a little bit of a disservice. So this, like, minor comment, this perhaps could have been simplified without losing the impactful language, though I did quite like what was in here. But yeah, green flags, beige flags, red flags. No red flags for me so far. Like my spidey sense is still kind of like quietly buzzing in the background, but there were a bunch of green flags. They said that they're a dumping ground for stuff, for operational stuff, and some people get mad that the dumping ground is dumping ground, and whatever, but they love it. That's a green flag because it's true. Operations teams do tend to be the dumping ground for stuff that other people don't want to deal with, and sometimes that creates animosity. So calling it out right there and being like, you are the kind of person who likes to kind of bring order to that scenario, that's awesome. Green flag for sure. Context switching, explicitly calling out that you need to be the kind of person who can switch context. That was a green flag because context switching, it's often talked about, you hear a lot about the penalty to context switching. So if your brain has to jump from thing to thing, there's a cognitive penalty. It's called attention residue, is the way that scientists, behavioral scientists, kind of look at it. And attention residue is basically just like a period of time where after you stop thinking about one thing and start thinking about another, you're still actually thinking about the last thing. So it kind of causes a bit of a train wreck in your brain.
Yeah.
Some people can actually manage context switching quite well. And it's usually people who have been bombarded with it a lot and they've just become used to it. So them saying, you got a context switch, green flag. Because people who like know what that is and know like what it's all about, know they can manage it, they'll be like, yeah, this is my bag. I'm going. Another green flag, it sounds to me, with the whole 2x2 experience thing that they talked about, that they're going to put some thought into tailoring, or matching, like playing matchmaker and matching the person who joins, because I assume there's going to be a bunch of these people, chief of staff kind of people. Right. So it sounds like they're going to do a little bit of matchmaking between the person and the client. And that's a great sign. When you start thinking about agency work through that light, and you start putting effort and attention into matching the right people with the right client, your outcomes are a heck of a lot better. I've seen that in the agency world. It wouldn't be any different here. So if that's what they're doing with the 2x2 thing, great, good for them. Another green flag, they said that they want people to stick around for several years. That if that's not just lip service and they actually do want to build a long-term team, huge green flag. That means they're going to be investing in people and they're going to be investing in professional development, training, empowerment, and they're also probably, I hope, knock on wood, they're going to think through the compensation structure and come up with something that will keep people around. So I'm really curious when we get to the compensation section. I have to guess how much this is worth, what that's going to be. Beige flags, a couple. You're going to do everything in this job. You're going to wear many hats. That's pretty common in the startup world, but it'll be even more of a thing with a fractional agency serving startups. Think of it as like compounding of hats. So you're going to have many hats on top of many hats. It's going to be chaotic, which is where the context switching thing comes in. They said that you're basically going to be a plumber and you're going to love it. I think I used the same word. Just think about what that means for you, how you like to work, right? Because being in the bowels of an organization, it is not sexy. it's a grind. They're doing a good job of calling that out, but you need to really think about whether or not that's for you. You're also probably not going to have a life. This is going to mean that you're going to be on call serving your clients. So you're going to take calls, text messages, emails, whatever, at random hours of the day. And if there's time zones and, like, your client's on the East Coast, but you're on the West Coast, if that's kind of in the mix, it's going to be amplified even more. Like, time travel's hard. So those are beige flags, not killers, but things to watch out for when you're thinking about this job role, if this is like for you or not.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think that you touched on something really important that ties into that commitment to 2+ years. I think it's because of what you just described. You're going to be on call, you're going to be doing everything and then some. And so that's exhausting. And I can totally
Yeah.
understand why they're asking people, look, if you're going to be here, please at least be here for 2 years. We will incentivize that for you. But there's a reason they're saying that, because to me, that reads high turnover, high expectations, high turnover. Some of the things that I guess beige flags for me, I think you had more green flags than I did. I worry a little bit about somebody who can provide sound HR guidance and sound financial guidance and sound
It's a good
compliance,
point.
right? Like, how do you, it's, they're each their own discipline. And it almost feels a little bit like, I don't know, the assumption that anyone can just walk in and do. I'll use human resources for an example, because I've built my whole career on it, and so I'm not just going to turn around and say I can magically do these other functions. This is my
Mm,
discipline. This is what I am, like, a subject matter expert on. So I wonder if they do have, like you talked about, like the actual pairing. Maybe they pair somebody who has HR experience with compliance, or something that is a
mm.
little bit more of a natural fit. Because I would be worried as an entrepreneur that I would be getting HR guidance from someone who, maybe, like, they say you need to have 2+ years in each of these things, but, like, how does
Yeah,
that happen then? How is somebody
yeah,
actually meeting these requirements, and getting
yeah.
enough experience to give sound advice to such a fragile environment like a startup, right? Like,
A
startups
really, really good point.
live and die off of poor guidance. I've seen it happen, in my world. And so that's a little bit of a reddish flag for me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that
Let's let's
stood
let's
out.
dig into that. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Like, that's something that is, yeah, yeah. If I wasn't so enamored by all the damn green flags I saw, I probably would call that a red flag. Expecting
Blind.
expecting one person
Yeah.
to be a subject matter expert in specifically like finance and regulatory compliance and human resources,
Yeah.
that's a challenge. You're probably not going to find someone who is like an SME, a subject matter expert in those three areas, e- especially if this is a price sensitive role. Like, maybe you would find someone who's been, like a chief compliance officer for 10 years and like a chief operations officer for 10 years, like had that escalating period of like senior leadership. You might find some of those people, but like $500,000.
This is what I'm saying. There's like huge disconnect, because they're not asking for that. They're asking for 2+ years of experience. Like, honey,
Yeah,
it's not enough time. I don't understand what kind of guidance you would be expecting from someone who's had 2 years of
yeah,
experience in these. So that's interesting to me.
yeah,
And also, I see this as, to me, this isn't a job that someone with that kind of experience would apply for, because it seems a little bit more entry level. It feels like something
yeah.
that you can do for a bit, as it implies by asking for a 2-year commitment, and then move on to like something a little bit bigger. So it's interesting to me. I would really want to know the qualifications and backgrounds of the individuals that they are hiring for these roles, because I feel like, yeah, 5+ years of like entrepreneurial experience, startup experience, and 2+ years of experience in at least two of the following is
Mm.
like interesting to me. Who is that? What's their ideal candidate profile? That would be
There's,
really interesting to me.
there's also an implicit risk to the business here,
Mhm.
like the agency business. So if you're starting a company, and you hire someone who has 3-4 years experience, and they're kind of your office manager slash your recruiter or HR person slash like your payroll administrator, that's not a great idea, but you often have to do it, and you're shielded from risk to some extent because they're a direct employee, like, or I should say the employee is shielded from liability because they're directly employed by the business. Now in an agency relationship it's different. So if you're an agency advising a client and you bugger it up and cause the client material harm because you gave bad advice, there's liability there.
Yeah.
So you, from the agency side, like that business structure, that agency, they would have to be really, really, really on top of their liability limiting kind of like things, their contracting and everything else like this. This I think this is quite a big red flag for the agency business as well as the employee.
Yeah, yeah. So that absolutely stood out to me. And some green flags are what you mentioned. They're really overt with what it is that they're into, and you can get a good read on their culture through this job posting, which frankly does not happen very often. So kudos to them for doing that. Like I can kind of tell what it would be like to work there just based on the language that they're using. So the other thing I guess for me was, yeah, that 2+ years. They want you to be there for several years because I think that it's going to be a tough job to be in for several years.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't really break that down into flags per se, but there are a few. There's some green, some red, some meh, beigey type flags. But let's continue. Let's talk a little bit about what's in it for you. So now
Okay.
you cover compensation, the best parts, the benefits, all of that kind of good stuff. So the compensation, actually, why don't I get you? Do you feel like you have enough information right now to guess something about the comp? Because the comp is like the next thing that we can discuss, or I can
Mm,
tell
okay.
you a little bit more about some of the other benefits and save comp for last.
uh no, let's rip the band-aid off.
Okay, what are your thoughts? What do you think a role like this would be paying?
Ah, okay, so if this were in Canada, which it's not, and if this agency was kind of new, which it sounds like it is, though I suspect that they have a portfolio of clients already. Um,
It is in Canada. So it's a Canadian, an American company. The role
yep.
is hiring for remote Canada.
Oh,
So
interesting. Like, was there anything that gave you the sense that this is meant to be like a Canadian role, or is it simply like we're casting a wide net and we'll hire anybody from anywhere, like Canada, Europe, doesn't matter?
that one, they have
Okay.
several postings for very similar type roles, like all over the place. So I think that's what it
Okay.
is. And for fairness to you, the comp is listed and it's listed in US dollars. So that might help a little bit.
Okay. Okay. I would um I would probably put this, if I'm thinking that this is kind of a newer agency just starting out looking for a bunch of people, I would probably put the base compensation like 60 to 65 US
Mm.
in there. And I think that it's probably worth double that on the market given what they're going to do.
Yeah, I was thinking like Canadian in my mind. I was going to Canadian dollars and I was thinking like, oh, 80,000, something like that. So base compensation is, and the wording is a little bit odd. I'm just going to read it verbatim because that's what they've
Mm,
written. Base compensation, comma, starting compensation. Wait a minute. I said verbatim. They didn't write comma. I added that. So base compensation, starting compensation is $80,000 US per year, but we expect most teammates, once ramped, will earn an average of $96,000 US or more per year. That's
Hmm.
weird wording, isn't it?
Yeah. So that makes me wonder what, okay, base compensation 80. You'll be earning 96 something once ramped. What does that mean? Are you billing hours? Like, are you earning based on the hours that you bill to your client? Are you an independent contractor? That's very strange wording. It
It's
makes
very
me
interesting,
it makes me wonder how you're earning your paycheck.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
it even makes me wonder, is your paycheck dependent on client companies paying their bill on time? Like, are you a portfolio manager and you're compensated based on that? How does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's interesting. So 80, you're talking like a $16,000 difference. And then it says, but we expect most teammates once ramped. It also makes me wonder if this is like a brand new business
Hmm.
that they're just getting started. So they're building and hiring now, and they're kind of giving a rough
Hmm.
idea of once everyone is onboarded. They estimate that they're going to be able to, again, depending on contracts, depending on, I don't know. I felt like that was such bizarre wording. But there's
The way that it's worded hints at some kind of variable compensation.
Yeah, and so it does. There are a couple more bullet points. Every
Okay.
team member receives equity in this company, which is variable based on level. Since we're building for the long term, we offer equity on the high side. So again, they're using language that makes me think that they're not quite established yet. Like since we're building on, um,
Hmm.
yeah. And then variable, the equity is variable based on level. I'm assuming they mean like role seniority,
Yeah,
like a
that's my
junior.
assumption too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But the equity thing, there is a question that I have about that. Is it equity in the agency or is it equity in the portfolio company? Because those are
great,
very different things.
great question. That very much different things, and I don't have the answer for you.
Doesn't say it.
That's a good
Because
question.
if it's equity in the agency, that's not a great perk.
Yeah,
Agencies don't accumulate a ton of value, a ton of capital value. Like, their agencies are cash flow businesses, really,
yeah,
especially if they're smaller businesses. Like, you start an agency because the overhead is low and you can kind of get money in and out quick, and it's all good. You can kind of skim off enough profit to pay bonuses and everything else. But there's very little accumulated capital inside an agency. Whereas with the portfolio company, the whole point is to accumulate capital inside the business so that it grows in value, so that you can pay back the investors and the employees, blah 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 blah. So, like, ESOP in an agency, not worth that much. That ain't a benefit.
no, absolutely, absolutely. And a couple of other ones. So up to $50 per month in reimbursable healthcare costs.
Uh,
$50 a month is
in the
low.
Yeah,
Like,
in particularly in, like, I know this is a Canadian job posting, like, that'd be kind of the equivalent of saying, you're going to get a healthcare spending account for $50 a month, which sucks, but at least we don't have to use that $50 a month for heart surgery. If you're
right,
in the US, then your $50 a month turns into an ambulance ride that costs 3,000. You're kind of poochered.
right. That was really interesting to me. So they don't then have a benefits or health insurance program.
Yeah.
That's what that tells me. And it's interesting because if you were a small organization, it is really hard to get good rates in the US
Yep.
for a health insurance program. Like absolutely, a lot of companies don't even bother until they have a certain headcount. So again, another indicator that maybe this is a very young organization. But even then, $50. So the company I work for, we only have 3 US employees, and we reimburse monthly, but we reimburse $1,500 a month US. Like still, like that's very generous, but it's still
Yep.
not great for US employees. So to reimburse $50 is like wacky to me. But it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. I don't want to tear them completely apart. At least they do something.
Yeah. It's
Um,
something.
Here's an important note, I thought. Note, we do not negotiate as we believe it is biased against various groups and creates poor dynamics. Instead, we pay
Huh.
and promote based on performance and meeting clearly defined metrics. What do you think about that? So that means
Uh,
what the salary they hire you at. You cannot say, actually, I think I'm worth this or whatever, and they state their reasons. Yeah. What are your feelings?
and presumably that ethos also applies to salary adjustments, compensation, promotions, et cetera, et cetera. Like they have a, I would assume that that means they have a rate card based on like performance and metrics
Right.
and whatever else. On paper, looks great. The idea that that negotiation disadvantages certain groups is absolutely true. There are groups of
Yeah.
people who feel very uncomfortable negotiating, and it's not even groups of people based on kind of like their characteristics like ethnicity, gender, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're just some people who do not like negotiating and do not like asking for raises. And I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I've never asked for a pay raise in my life because the thing is like makes me deeply uncomfortable. Now, I've also been fortunate enough to be offered pay raises that reflected the value that I had without a whole lot of talk because I focused on the work and delivered really good value to the businesses I worked for. So
Yeah.
like I got pay raises, so it wasn't an issue for me. I didn't care about it. But there are people who that's not the case for. So on paper, interesting. I like it. In practice, um, it's actually going to reduce the level of meritocracy in the business, which meritocracy is a very good thing in a business, especially an early stage startup. And I would say even especially for like a startup agency serving startups. You want to be able to retain people who are high performers, who can really make a difference in generating revenue for your business and serve your
Yeah.
clients. And if you say to them, you can't negotiate, and what you get is you get, they'll piss off.
Yeah. I agree. I understand where they're coming from with this. This isn't it's a newer thing, but it's not kind of exclusive to this organization. But I think it's also another indicator to me that they themselves are new and in their
Uh,
infancy because they're probably trying to get everyone in at the same rate to make things a little bit easier. So I can see why they would
mhm.
do that at that point. I think that there are good ways to do this, and there are not so great ways to do it. So I would want to know a little bit more. But I do agree that it would kind of like come to surface eventually who your high performers are and you at a certain point, like you said, meritocracy then goes out the window, and then what? You're going to lose your stars. So I'm really just repeating what you said, but I think it's like a full future episode to talk about things like compensation,
Yeah.
pay, and philosophies. I think that there's a good argument for that. But I
I'm,
will.
s- I'm I'm still reeling a little bit from that. I have never, ever in a job posting seen we do not believe in negotiation. You get what you get. I'm
Yeah.
still like, I'm still stuck on that. That's sorry. Carry on.
No, it's just it's funny because when you said you get what you get, and my this is totally off topic, but my son was playing in a rugby tournament, and this one player, this one little girl, like tackled him and just was relentless with him, and then she looked up at him and said, "You get what you get, and you don't get upset." So funny. So it's like, I don't know if she knows what that means, but my son kept bringing it up and saying, "Remember when that girl tackled me and said that?" So you just reminded me of you get what you get and you don't get upset. That's what they're saying, right? That's what they're tackling you and saying you get what you get. Take it or leave it. And again,
Well,
I
you know what that means? I think that means that she has a crush on him because you only kick sand on people in the sandbox when you like
sure,
them.
sure, right. Um, it means she might need some behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, if that's the way that she's expressing her emotions. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure she's fine. Her parents are doing a great job. Anyway, there's another couple of sections here. So the
Yeah,
best
carry
part,
on.
that's their heading. The best parts: we are fully remote, do not require any travel, and have somewhat flexible hours. Somewhat. The expectation is that all company CEOs work standard US hours from 9 to 5 across PST, EST time zones. We're good people who work well together while solving critical problems for awesome startups. The universal benefits are unlimited PTO, work from home stipend up to $250 a month for things like office setup, coffees, co-working space. Why is executive coaching only valuable for executives? We think that's stupid. Optional coaching 2 times a month, only 4 30-minute team meetings per week, support from a team of other experts, and teamwork to complete your work. Additional notes, this is about the interview process itself, the selection process. There will be 5 15 to 60-minute interviews via Google Meet, one of which is a Q&A with another company's CEO to vet the role for you too. To help set you up for success, half of the questions are provided for the first interview. We will ask for up to 4 former or current manager references. If you want us to consider your application, you must apply to the role via the form that's linked. We like fun and making some magic. Join us. You'll learn more, and we expect have more fun than any other role you've ever had. And that's the job posting. So I have some thoughts. You look like you have some thoughts. Share, please. Do tell.
I would suck at playing poker. I would need to wear like a big old ski mask or something if I was in a high stakes poker game. Damn. Yeah, I got some thoughts. CEO, first off, I mean, maybe this is just a typo or something, but I'm a little confused. Like, this is a beige flag. I'm a little bit confused. I thought they were hiring chief of staff, not CEOs. Are they also hiring CEOs to plug into their portfolio clients? Like, if they are, cool, good for them. Like,
Yeah, no, great
crazy.
question. I don't know if it's typo. I think I mentioned earlier on too that there are a few different titles thrown around here. So like there's chief of staff, but then there's also like fractional language, and then there's the CEO. So I don't know if these are typos or if they're trying
Keyword tomfoolery.
Yeah. So it's a little bit odd. I flagged that too, and I'm sure listeners did as well. I did not read that incorrectly. I read as written, and it does say that company CEOs work standard US hours. So don't know.
Okay. Another beige flag, coaching. On paper, great. Offering executive coaching to people who are in this role. Like, if that does kind of suggest or hint at who they're trying to hire, who they're targeting. To me, it sounds like they're going after someone who is kind of early to mid-career, and they've kind of figured out their path, and they've kind of figured out that they need to invest in themselves. And executive coaching is a great way to do that if you've got a good coach. Yeah, I can see that, but beige flag, not a green flag. It's a weird perk. References, another beige flag for me. 4 references is kind of a lot.
That's a lot.
And I think one of the first pieces of your writing that I ever read on your Substack like last year was about reference checks and why you should just like skip them. And it gave me a pretty new perspective on that. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I never put a ton of stock in references as a hiring manager before, simply because like all that a reference check proves is that you can generate someone who is willing to lie for you.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell me anything. But the perspective you put on it was different. And it was about like equity and structural disadvantage and whatnot. It was quite interesting. So maybe we should stick the link to that post in the show notes too. I'll take that on. I'll do that. And folks can kind of read about that, because it was eye-opening for me. Yeah, references, beige flag for sure. Red flag, unlimited PTO. Unlimited PTO sounds awesome if you're an employee, but it's a bait and switch. There are problems with unlimited PTO policies. Nobody who offers unlimited PTO is going to tell you that the reason that they do it is financial. If you have unlimited PTO, then you're not accruing vacation. So there's no value that the employer then has to turn over to you in a settlement if you're laid off or dismissed or whatever else. So it's a backdoor to kind of like limit liability in those cases. And that's never talked about. I don't dig that. Unlimited PTO also, and I suspect that this will be very, very true in this organization, it creates a cultural kind of situation or scenario where people feel like they can't take
Mhm.
vacation unless other people are taking vacation. And people who aren't taking vacation will begrudge people who are taking vacation. When there's no structure to it, that ends up happening a lot. And that can get very toxic very quickly. And it can also accumulate and lead to burnout. And in an environment like this, doing this job, burnout's always already going to be a very, very severe risk. Like you will probably burn out at some point
Yeah.
doing this job if it doesn't become a regular occurrence. So unlimited PTO sounds great, but it does not support your wellness,
Yeah.
especially in this environment. A couple of green flags, though, in this, or one green flag, really. Uh, the interview process. They say that they're going to have client companies, CEOs from client companies, participate in the interviews. I really like that. That kind of takes this 360 model that's kind of off and on, like, on vogue for performance reviews, and brings it into the hiring process. I really, really like that. It's kind of this matchmaking thing, right? I think that having that client CEO participate in the interview is going to strengthen the bond between the person who's hired and the client company very, very early on. So I think that's quite smart. I've never heard of that before, but I liked it.
See, I'm like squirming in my seat to say something about that. I'm just like, is it my turn? Is it my turn? Listen, I don't know that that's what they mean.
Oh,
Because
okay.
the reason I don't know is because they said CEO earlier in this section, right? They had said the expectation is that all company CEOs work standard US work hours. So when I read one of which in the interview process, like one
Yeah.
interview is a Q&A with another company's CEO to vet the role for you too. I didn't automatically read that it was like a portfolio CEO. I read it as another person with the same role in our company, like a peer interview or something like
Interesting.
that. Because they like misworded CEO elsewhere in the job posting, to me, I read this and I was like, I don't know what this means. I have no idea what they mean by that. And they do say, with another company's CEO to vet the role for you too. It doesn't provide any clarity to me. I didn't read that
Yeah,
from it. The same, I didn't interpret it the same way that you did. I
that's a
read
good
it
point.
uh, a peer interview. So the fact
Yeah,
that we both don't know what they mean by that,
yeah. Because either one of us could be right. Like
yeah,
it's ambiguous enough, and there's enough confusion in the way that the back half of the job posting was written that it could be interpreted either way. It could probably be interpreted another way that we're
another way.
not thinking of.
Absolutely. So interesting that we both got something completely different from like one sentence. I find that fascinating. I on the unlimited PTO, I mean, again, I would love to make a case for having a special one-off episode where we talk about
Mm,
things like perks and benefits. I've been in organizations that have it. They usually try to have some kind of qualifier, like with a minimum of 5 weeks of vacation per year. Like we make sure you take 5 weeks of vacation, whether we assign it to you or however it happens. Like come hell or high water, you're taking 5 weeks. But the thing
mm.
is, like on average, most people with unlimited PTO are it's I think it's like 4 weeks average. So like just make it 4 weeks, or just if 5 is your minimum, just make it 5 weeks, right? Like again, I understand why they're doing that. You explained it really well. But I don't think it's the perk that people think it is anymore. I think it's kind of like a passe thing to offer. I think offer generous vacation, make sure people take it, and just don't be a place where people will like literally die if they don't get their vacation. It's so hard to work there. I've also been in like behind closed doors in the conversations from the leadership team who have unlimited PTO being judgmental towards people who take it, like being
Mm.
like really, really mean about it. Like, well, this person, like actually going through the spreadsheet and being like, this person took this much and la 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 la. Like it's a thing. It's very politically charged and it can negatively impact your reputation at work if you are the one taking a bunch of PTO. If you don't care about that, that's totally fine. But I would say if you like to have a lot of paid vacation, negotiate that when you join an organization, negotiate higher
But you
vacation.
can't do it here because
You
there's
can't
no
do it here.
negotiating.
But not here, but somewhere else. So that was what was interesting to me. I loved that they put only 4 30-minute team meetings per week. Hell yeah. I mean, get that shit done in 4 30-minute meetings a week. If you can't, then I don't know what you're doing. There's so many other asynchronous tools out there. Like this to me is something that is a bit more forward thinking and you know, maybe it's aspirational because again, I feel like this is a very new organization, but if you can do that and if you can stick to that, you open up so much more potential for everyone else to get their real work done. What's interesting to me is that that's on the internal side. Now, if you're doing this job and you've got your portfolio companies that you're supporting, you are not having 4 30-minute meetings a week. You're on all the time. So that's probably why they're trying to minimize it on the internal side. And it's smart to do that. I also think that I love that they're talking about the interview process. I think 15 to 60-minute interviews is a lot of interviews. 5 and then 15 to 60, like that's, what if it's 5 60-minute, like that is a lot of interviews for this role. So that was, while I appreciate their transparency and I appreciate that they're saying like half the questions are provided in the first interview, that's a weird, like what's the math there? How did they determine? That feels very arbitrary. Just give the questions or don't. And then the 4 references, hated it. 4 references, are you kidding? Like you mentioned, references are a form of currency and you're asking people to use up that currency, and for what, right? Like if you're asking, for what point during the interview process are you asking for the references? It better be when you're ready to give them the offer, because if you're asking me to use 4 references and I don't even get the job, like, no, thank you. So yeah, we'll link to that piece, but I'd love to do a full episode on references and some of the kind of more outdated practices that we rely on for this kind of process. So those are my thoughts. That's the full job posting. So I'm curious about, what you think, any advice that you might have for the job seeker, the applicant here, the job posters.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a job and you come across something like this, buyer beware. This may be completely up your alley. This might be your thing. You might absolutely love this, and it's true that they were honest about kind of
Yeah.
the chaotic, crazy nature, and they were honest about kind of your role. It's going to be unglamorous. It's going to be a lot of slog work. So like they were very honest about that, but still ask questions. Think very critically about the job ad, and if you have an interview for something like this, be very inquisitive. The more questions that you can ask to really figure out like what this culture is going to be like, the better armed you're going to be to ultimately decide if it's for you or not. And if it were me, I would be asking about that ESOP thing. Where is the equity coming from? Is it equity from the agency? Is it equity from the portfolio company? If it's equity from the portfolio companies, and that's just kind of a part of the standard agreement that the agency enters into with the portfolio companies, great. I mean, that could potentially be huge. Like that, you have one portfolio company that goes public or exits or whatever else. That could be a pretty substantial payoff for you. So it makes a hell of a lot of sense. But if it's equity in the agency, no,
Yeah.
no. Yeah. So be diligent. More so with this than like an established company like a big old bank.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think take your time, come prepared with a lot of questions. You have tons of interviews, so lots of opportunities to ask all of your questions. But go into it with a plan of what you need to know, and primarily like what does good look like in this role. I going back 1 second to the executive coaching, I actually like it because having worked with portfolio companies, and a lot of the times the CEOs are the founders or co-founders of the organization, and there's that emotional attachment. It is very challenging to go into a company and try to tell them what is best for them. So some kind of coaching on like how to have those conversations, how to be like influential in those conversations, or how to, construct, give constructive criticism. I think there's a benefit for that. And I also think that, um, yeah, I feel like I have so much to say about this job posting, but I think just be cautious, have a good list of questions that you want to ask, understand what good looks like, understand how you will be supported in this role. Who are you accountable to? There is no reporting structure listed. So who actually, are you accountable primarily to the portfolio companies? Are you accountable internally? What does that look like? When we talk about meritocracy, if you're going to have performance reviews and those are opportunities to grow and to get raises, are they looking for feedback from the portfolio companies as well? Is it just internal? Like, I would just want to know so much more information about how I can really succeed at this company. So that's kind of my guidance for the job seeker here.
Mm. Mm. What about the job seeker? What would you tell the person writing this job ad to maybe improve upon it?
Oh, I think I would tell them to like take a CBD gummy, clear your mind, clear your desk, and just like take your time writing this job description, because there is a lot there and it's very like befuddling. Like I can't quite, it's hard to understand. So I think just like slow it down. Some of what you're saying is redundant. So look for patterns of what you're saying, group them together, and then just like edit, like Coco Chanel said, before you leave the house, take off one accessory. Like that needs to happen to this job posting. You need to just clean it a little bit. And otherwise, I mean, it was fun and exciting. I would also tell them, be careful what you're looking for, because it does seem like they're going to be some junior people here, and that could be detrimental to the portfolio companies. You need people with like real depth of experience, versus like shallow breadth of experience across a whole bunch of different things. So yeah, I would say just slow it down and edit within an inch of its life. What about you?
Yeah, for me, I would reevaluate the business risk of the model, and like this really kind of that exchange we had earlier, talking about how you were basically hiring someone who could be an advisor in different functional areas that have quite a bit of exposure sometimes, but you wanted that kind of packaged into one person.
Yeah.
And then from an agency standpoint, you want the person to be able to like provide advice. That creates a liability risk in the middle, because it's not a direct employee of the portfolio company, it's an agency. So you can be sued if your employee fucks something up.
Yes.
So think about that very, very carefully. And if you're still like sold on doing that, and you're still sold on structuring the role this way, and you're going to hire a person who you want to be able to do A, B, and C, even though it creates risk, spend a lot of time on risk mitigation, and hire a good lawyer.
Yeah.
Not someone who is also your accountant. Don't employ the same strategy for your own business if you're still sold on this.
Yeah. That's such a good point. No, and you bring up a good point. Like when I'm on calls with portfolio company CEOs and I'm helping them with an HR matter, I need to be able to have the answer for them immediately. And I don't know that they're able to find someone who can do that with HR and with legal and with compliance and with like finance. So yeah, I agree. I think that it's quite risky what they're doing. And it would be interesting to know whether or not this is an established company or brand new, like we suspect, or at least I do. So yeah. What about
a cool idea, though? It's a cool idea. I love it.
This company, this business model, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. You know, if I was a little bit earlier on in my career, like I'm kind of at the age now where I'm a little bit beyond the whole I want to be on call 24 hours a day and like put out fires 24 hours a day. There was a time in my life when I found that validating,
Yeah.
but that time is behind me. But if I was younger and still in that phase of my life, yeah, I'd jump on this. It'd be dope.
Once upon a time, I wanted to have my own HR consulting firm. I even had the name. Feel free, anyone, if they want to steal it. I think I still have the domain though, so just DM me. But Start Me Up Consulting, and basically, it's doing HR for startups because usually that's the last role that they hire for, and it leads to a whole bunch of mistakes down the road that they may not realize in the beginning. But helping startups with their HR needs, processes, everything, and then I exit by hiring their first HR hire for them.
Mhm.
Like it's a good idea. Again, I don't have who has the energy for that. But it's a good business model. I do like what they're trying to do. I get it. It's very near to the work that I'm doing. So I can see what they're trying to do, but I think that it's a little bit risky.
And the
As
impact will be outsized if they're successful at, like, helping a lot of their portfolio
Mm,
companies. Like, this is a leveraged model that creates outsized impact. You know, if you're doing this for, like, one business, you're helping one business. If you're doing this for, like, 20 in a leveraged way, and then each of those 20 businesses is hiring, they're adding jobs, they're creating economic growth. Like, your little kind of nexus point of this where you, like, kick it all off, making a huge impact on the world. So like I really hope that these folks are successful. Like good luck to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you had to score this job posting out of a 10, what would you give it?
Ah, 3.5.
Oh, no way. Really? That's the lowest.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to say that because I do genuinely hope that these folks are successful. I want them to be successful, but there was too much intermingled weird stuff that was fundamental,
Yeah.
like fundamentally a problem in this job post. Um, so like I say that with a very heavy heart. Yeah, like 3.5. It was unclear
Yeah.
what the person will actually be doing. There was structural systemic risk in the way that the role was structured. We don't know if we're going to be interviewed by one of the clients or by another person in the organization. There's 5 interviews. Um,
For
there's a
leverage.
bunch of benefits. There's a bunch of benefits that are wrapped in very showy, flowery language to try and make them more than what they actually are in terms of real value to the employee. And I get that, especially if you're a new business, like you don't have the resources to kind of put like money into
Totally.
your total comp programs. You don't. So you got to be creative. I get that. But this was a little much. Like some of those perks, not perks, the equity thing, for instance, like
Yeah.
what equity is it? Um, yeah, so I this was not a good job posting for me. But if they rewrote it
Yeah.
using some of the kind of feedback that we are talking about, like in this for the last hour, maybe it would be better and I'd give it a better score.
This is a long one, and this is your lowest score, if I recall correctly, which is
Yeah.
you were like green flag, green flag. But it's funny because that's how it is, right? Like you start to read a job posting, and then as you get into the nitty gritty, you're like, oh dang, this isn't as great as I thought it was going to be. Which is yeah, it kind of how I feel about it too. I don't know. I like what they're trying to do. I like their enthusiasm. I would say probably like a 5 or something like that. But I agree, there's a lot that needs to be reworked here. I'm curious and interested in following this company as well, just to see how they do, learning a little bit more about them. So I would say about a 5. They need to work on some things. They got some stuff, they did some stuff well. They were super transparent. Like I feel like I have to give them bonus points for being really transparent about what it is that they're trying to do here. And uh, yeah, so like for spirit and intent, I would say that it's a 5 out of 10 for that one.
Well, shall we consider this thing roasted?
Yes, done.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If today's teardown helped you see a role more clearly or helped you understand why some postings feel like structural puzzles waiting to happen, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our sass. Hit subscribe on YouTube or follow us on your favorite podcast app so the next episode finds you automatically. And if you've got a job posting you want us to analyze, question, critique, or gently dismantle, send it in. Listener submissions make this show better, and sometimes they're the best material we get. Tap the link in the show notes for more. We'll see you next time with another roasted post to lay out on the dinner table.